everyone. The maker of ChatGPT, OpenAI, says its artificial intelligence system hacked into another AI company called Hugging Face on its own last week. OpenAI is calling this a, quote, unprecedented cyber incident. Joining us now to talk more about this is Elias Stengel-Eskin, who is an assistant professor of computer science at the University of Texas. His expertise is in artificial intelligence. Professor, welcome to our show and thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about what's your understanding about what happened here, but before we do that, just share your reaction about hearing that AI acted on its own to hack into another system, another company.
Yeah, so I think that acting on its own here, in some senses, is a kind of misnomer in that if you don't give these models any input, they won't do anything. If you open ChatGPT and you don't say anything, nothing will happen. So there was some input, there was some intent to test the model's ability to kind of exploit cybersecurity flaws. In this case, I think acting on its own can kind of be taken to mean acting well beyond the scope of what the user intended or predicted. So you asked for one thing, you got something completely different. And I think that's effectively what happened here.
Okay, yeah. Give us a little bit more understanding from your perspective as you've been looking into this about perhaps how this happened or what happened exactly.
Yeah, so I think there are sort of three levels in which the model acted in a kind of unexpected way. The first is that as far as I understand, the evaluation that the model was given was effectively a test data set of sort of cybersecurity flaws. And this was done in a kind of sandbox environment where the model was not supposed to have access to the external world, so to the internet. The first thing that went wrong basically was that the model effectively decided to cheat on the test. And so one way to do that is to say, I'm going to go look up the answers to this data set. And so that's sort of level one of what may have gone wrong. Level two is that the model then figured out how to exploit vulnerabilities in its sandbox to actually gain access to the internet, which it wasn't supposed to have. And then level three was to use that access to target Hugging Face, which is a company that stores a lot of data sets. And so it's ostensibly perhaps where this data might be stored. And so it then tried to exploit vulnerabilities in their system to try to gain access to the data. So this is sort of three tiers of things that the model did that were unexpected.
Okay, so is this behavior, this function that happens surprising to AI researchers like yourself, or is it really something the field has been expecting to perhaps come at some point in the future?
Yeah, I think the writing has been on the wall for a lot of this behavior for a long time. I think that these so-called sort of alignment failures have been fairly well studied and well documented for a number of years. That said, I think the capabilities that the model displayed here are a cut above what sort of previous models would have been capable of. The exploits that the model found were clever and showed a substantial amount of knowledge about the environment.
Now, since this has been identified that OpenAI shared what happened with this particular issue, does it perhaps strengthen the case for more oversight of advanced AI systems? What do you think?
I do think it makes a strong case for oversight and regulation, although I'm not sure how that oversight can be done. I don't think this can be done at the level of a single government or a single actor. AI development is a global phenomenon. The US has a bunch of labs that are developing these models, so do other countries. Just this week, we saw Kimi K3 come out. That's a model that was developed and released in China. And if one country decides to regulate its AI, it may actually have the sort of opposite effect on that country's safety, in that if other actors do not decide to regulate their AI, that country that does regulate may be at a disadvantage. These models are not just capable of sort of malicious use cases. they can also be used in defense, right? So even in this case, Hugging Face, the company that was attacked, actually used large language models as part of their detection and mitigation solution. And so in that sense, we don't necessarily want to have regulation that's local. And I think this is a conversation that needs to involve the sort of the whole global community.
Yeah, obviously that will be a big mountain to climb at some point too. But in these last few moments that I have you, for somebody who's sitting at home and hearing about this and what happened, how concerning should that be to the broader public that this unfolded?
I think that this incident shows that model capabilities have advanced and they're continuing to advance. At the same time, I think there are mitigating circumstances here that mean that maybe the public need not be as concerned. One thing that's worth noting here is that the experiment was run without guardrails. So when you or I interact with ChatGPT or Claude or one of these models, they have a large number of guardrails around them that prevent malicious use. In this case, the OpenAI researchers running this experiment had turned off many of those guardrails in order to understand what the true capabilities of the model were, and that's why they were doing this in the sandbox environment. But that sort of no guardrail version of the model is not something that is broadly available. So I think this particular incident right now would be unlikely to happen sort of outside of a company like OpenAI.
Well, Professor, we appreciate you joining our show and giving us some extra context about this. And that is Elias Stengel-Eskin from the University of Texas, just down the street from us. Thank you again for joining us here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.